Jani sir, please.
Yes, sir. Hello, respected principal, sir, respected head of the departments, and my colleagues. Today we have arranged one lecture on national education policy by Dr. Ketan P. Badgujar. Now I would like to give introduction about Dr. Badgujar. Dr. Badgujar received BE degree from Gujarat University in 1997. He has received ME degree with specialization in high voltage engineering from the IISc Bangalore in 2007. He has been awarded a TAG Corporation Gold Medal for the best ME student at IISc. He has obtained his doctorate degree from IIT Bombay in the field of transformer diagnostics. He is the recipient of GTU Pedagogy Innovation Award in 2013 and 17. He has published number of papers in peer-reviewed international journals and conferences. He has been the part of number of CEP courses delivered to BEL, Bhopal, Crompton Greece, Mumbai, and Arriva, Allahabad. T&R Ahmedabad, CCIL, Hyderabad, GTU, and IIT Bombay. He has delivered number of expert lectures in STTPs in various parts of India. He is also the reviewer of IEEE transactions on power delivery, IET, SMT, and many national and international conferences. He has received. He has been appreciated for the outstanding contribution as reviewer in IEEE transactions on power delivery in 2017. He has received Best Technical Paper Award in IEEE Indicon 2013 conference. He has received POCOSO 2014 award along with cash prize of rupees 60,000 for his doctoral research in transformers in 2014. He has been honored for the outstanding contribution to accreditation activity by the Education Department Government of Gujarat. He is the only selected professor in electrical engineering for the GPSC taken in 2017. His first year EEE lectures are available in Namo ETAP mobile app and regularly telecasted on Vande Gujarat channel. Recently, he was given the responsibility of placement cell, Education Department Government of Gujarat, which generated 28,000 employment opportunities with 17,000 plus interviews across 24 placement campus in state of Gujarat. For the same work, he has got the special appreciation from Government of Gujarat. He has been at LD Engineering College, Ahmedabad for 9 years, at GEC Modasa for 8 years. He has also served at IIT Ram from 2014 to January 2014 to May 2015. His research interests include the transformer diagnostics, techniques, and high voltage engineering. At present, he is serving as the professor and head of the Electrical Engineering Department, Shantilal Engineering College, Bhavnagar. Now, I would like to invite our principal sir to say a few words about this session. Please, sir. Please, principal sir.
Okay, thank you, Jani sir. Welcome, Dr. Ketan Badgujar sir, all the head of the departments, faculties, and students, those who are attending through YouTube live. So our entire session will be recorded as well as live on the YouTube so that students can refer it later on. Education policy, basically, it's very important for technical education because it recognizes the importance of technology in aiding the teachers. Not only that, we have to offer many online courses because, policy says that if the students of engineering want to study Ayurveda or want to study music or want to study arts or something like commerce, then opportunity should be given. And we know that it's not possible to appoint faculty of all branches in any one college. So, implementation is very difficult otherwise. So where technology will have a major role to play. We have to offer many massive open online courses so that student can select the courses from that open source and attend the courses, attend the examinations, and submit the certificates, and we give the credit to them. So there is there is the importance of technology to implement this education policy in coming years. There will be importance in creating digital libraries and course, any language barrier. So now AI has already started, to convert textbook into local language. તો આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં પણ ટેક્સ્ટબુક લખવી પડશે. ઘણા વર્ષો પહેલાનો આપણને અનુભવ છે કે અમુક જોઈન્ટ ડાયરેક્ટર છે એકેડેમિક ઇન્સ્પેક્શનમાં આવતા હોય, ઘણા સારા પ્રોફેસર હોય અને ભણાવતા હોય ગુજરાતીમાં, ખૂબ સારું ભણાવતા હોય, છતાંય એને ઠપકો આપતા હોય કે ભાઈ તમે ગુજરાતીમાં કેમ ભણાવો છો. તો હવે આપણી નવી એજ્યુકેશન પોલિસી એવું કહે છે કે ભાઈ તમારે લોકલ લેંગ્વેજને વધારે પ્રમોટ કરવાની છે, લોકલ લેંગ્વેજમાં તમારે ભણાવવાનું છે, જેથી કરીને સ્ટુડન્ટ એને સારી રીતે સમજી શકે. So we have to bridge a language barrier between the teachers and students. So we are very very fortunate that we have a eminent expert like Dr. Ketan Badgujar is with us. I invite Badgujar sir to share with all of us regarding this, how to implement this education policy and throw some light on it. Thank you sir for coming and giving consent for this talk.
It's my pleasure, sir. My pleasure. Jani sir, shall we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Start.
Whether my presentation is visible?
No. Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
So first of all, let me thank Dr. Vitsani and Jani sir, who have given me opportunity to share my experience on specific topic. In fact, before 1 year, I was also having the similar kind of knowledge what we all have. But later on, I got some opportunity to refer these documents, gain some knowledge on this topic. And hence, whatever I have gained through various sources, I'm just sharing with you. So before understanding the education policy of 2020, we must know that what was the actual scenario of education in India and how the education has evolved, how it has been progressed throughout the years. So in fact, the today's talk is actually going to cover the whole journey of education in India, starting from Vedic era till date, how the education has evolved, what are the practices, and then we will understand how the Indian education system and foreign education system is at present, and what are the things which we are going to get or offered through this new policy. So the whole session is actually divided into these many topics. We will be initially discussing ancient, then medieval education, modern education. Then in independent India, what are the education policies were there? What is the difference between Indian and foreign education? And what is there in new education policy? And what and how it is going to affect our technical education? And what are the major changes in present system that we are expecting? So let us start this session. If you have any queries, we can have question answer session later on. You must note down or either put it in the chat box. I will refer it and then let you know what I know about that. So ancient education system. So in fact, if we see in India, we can say there was no formal education system in very olden days. In fact, father used to pass his knowledge to the child primarily related to the occupation. So a smith's son will become smith, goldsmith's son will become goldsmith, and businessman's son will become businessman. That way, generation to generation, the knowledge was passed. Nothing was in written form, and everything was going oral. I would request someone is turn on the mic, so if everyone can mute their mics. Good. So, in fact, much later on, two systems of education came into existence. One was Vedic system and second was Buddhist system. Vedic system was generally revolving around Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, while Buddhist system was revolving around Buddhist school of system. The language of education was Sanskrit for Vedas and Pali for Buddhist system. What was the uniqueness in the ancient Indian education system? So in ancient system, it was very different from the rest of the world. There was no interference of society and state with the curriculum of or the administration. Secondly, the child has to leave his home, his or her home, to get an education, and the child has to live with teacher in a gurukul in the duration of the studies. Education was free of cost. Physical labor was must, and even if a child was interested rather in philosophical knowledge, but he has to do certain manual work every day, and teacher will take care of is everything like food, clothing, housing, everything was taken care by teacher or the Gurukul system. Debates and discussion were part of that system. In Vedic system of study, the starting of study was done by putting a kriya called Vidyarambha ceremony. In Vidyarambha ceremony, goddess Saraswati was worshipped. Only the children of Brahmin, Kshatriya and Vaishya were allowed to go to Gurukul. So we know that there was some caste system. So only specific caste were allowed to take education. The Vedic system comprised of 4 Vedas that we all know, or 4 Vedas. Then 6 Vedangas. They are related to ritual knowledge, metrics, exegetics, grammar, phonetics, and astronomy. And Upanishads were there. And Tarka Shastra, Puran, they were there in the major studies. This is one picture depicting the student who were learning Vedas. Similarly, there was a Buddhist system of study. In Buddhist system of studies, child generally started his studies at the age of 8 by performing a ceremony called Prabhajja. This ceremony could be practiced by boys of all caste. So in Buddhist system, there was no caste system. So anyone who is taking Buddhist system of study, he could do. The main subject of Buddhist system were Vinaya, Abhinanda and Sutta. There were 18 types of Buddhist school. Certain subjects were common between both the systems like arithmetic, military science, law, performing arts, ethics, arts and architecture. They were both in Vedic system as well as in Buddhist system. And this is one picture depicting the same. Education of women in ancient era was a little bit tragic, means only few women could take it. Generally, they were trained in housekeeping, dancing and music. Girls also had to conduct Upanayana ceremony, and generally there were 2 types of education system for women. One was Sadyadvahas, who pursued their education until they get married, means till the age of marriage, they used to get education. And some women also took like Brahmavadinis, who never get married and continue to study throughout their lives. So Vedas and Vedangas were taught to women, but up to the limit of religious songs, poems necessary for rituals. Some of the notable Vedic and Upanishad scholars, women scholars were Apala, Indrani, Ghosha, Lopamudra, Gargi, Matre, likewise. And this is one picture depicting the Buddhist monk teaching a woman student. The aim of education during ancient India was good quality of education to be given, enrichment of culture, character, personality development, cultivation of noble ideas. Students are made future ready and survive in any situation. Means students are prepared for the life, not for the job, and gain mental, physical, intellectual personality, and practical knowledge was more emphasized than theoretical knowledge, and overall development of the student was the main goal of that education system. So here we must understand, in ancient India, people were not like taking studies for getting a job, but rather gaining a better mind or a better person, right? So aim of education was like that. Then similar situation pursued, and then after bigger temples of education came, bigger universities, and two famous universities were Takshashila and Nalanda. So Takshashila was in Buddhist system of studies, and it was very famous for higher education throughout the globe. In fact, subjects like ancient scriptures, law, medicine, sociology, astronomy, military science, and 18 silpas were taught. Great scholars like Panini, who was expert of grammar, Chanakya, who was a skilled statescraftsman, they all studied over there. And students from Kashi, Kosala, Magadha, and from different countries came to this university. It is presently in northwestern Pakistan, and it has been declared as an archaeological site by UNESCO. In similar track, there was another university called Nalanda. It is in Magad, Bihar. Generally, it is also a site of World Heritage Site. And another universities like Vallabhi, Vikrama, Ujjain, and Banaras were also there during those time. And major subjects were taught like Vedas, fine arts, medicine, mathematics, astronomy. Vallabhi University was more famous for law, medicine, economics, and Vikramshila was more famous for Tantric Buddhism. So likewise, there were universities of importance in ancient India also. This is one remaining things of Nalanda University. So what was the advantage of ancient education? So in ancient education, they were trying to focus on all-round development of the students. And emphasis was given on practical knowledge rather than theoretical knowledge. Study environment was very pleasant because they are generally in forest. Students have to live there for many days, many years. The main focus was on knowledge and not on the ranks, and no pressure on the students. Rather, it was creating effective learning for the students. And kings at that time used to help. They used to help for development of education, and government did not interfere with the formulation of curriculum. So the freedom was there with the gurus and teachers, and curriculums were independent of the administration advices. The only problem with ancient education system was that women were not given admissions to Gurukul, and there was a discrimination based on caste was there. So Kshatriya and Brahmins all were allowed. We have a famous example of Eklavya also during that time. So that was the issue. Otherwise, many things were there in positive in the ancient education system. Then came medieval education. Almost in 8th century after Christ, Mohammedan invaded India, and Muhammad Ghaznavi set up many schools and libraries in India. So ancient education system was drastically changed after the invasion of country, and Arabs and Turks brought some new culture, traditions, and some institutions in India. They all were based on Islamic pattern, and they were very different from Buddhist system or Vedic system. So education system primarily focused on Islamic and Mughal system in medieval age. In medieval age, the main objective was to spread Islamic education, its principle and social convention. The purpose of education was to make people religious. The subjects of study were Arabian and Persian were most important during those era. The recitation of Quran was made compulsory. One of the Islamic scholar, Ibn Sina, who visited country during that era, so he noted that during that era, subjects such as reading, manual skill, literature, medicine, geometry, trade and commerce was part of the study. And the system was basically of two types. One is religious education, second was secular education. In religious education, Quran, Muhammad and his inventions, Islamic laws and Islamic histories were taught. While in secular education, Arabic literature, grammar, history, philosophy, mathematics, geography, politics, economics, Greek language and agriculture was taught. Two types of institutes were there. One was called maktabas and another was called madrasas. In maktabas, students were also taught subjects like reading, writing, arithmetic, along with the religious education. And some literature, in Persian literature was also taught, like Laila Majnu or Yusuf Juleka, along with practical education. Later writing, accountancy was also taught. Madrasa is a little bit higher education kind of a schools. And during Akbar's era, he did some remarkable work in education. So Akbar stops some traditional Islamic religious knowledge teaching, and he brought certain subjects like medicine, history, geography, economics, political science, astrology, philosophy, on mathematics also, and some subjects like Vedanta, then Patanjali, they also brought into syllabus. Advantage and disadvantage of medieval education system was practical education was given more importance. Student-teacher relations were good. Students were taught basics and rulers used to support the development of the education. Disadvantage was religious and Islamist education was given more importance and focus was aimed on leadership for ruling the country. So it's more focused toward the ruling the country. Administration became the modern education system. So we all know that British and he country and seen that there is a different value system, strong system of culture and heritage is there in the country. And the Britishers' mindset was very clear. They wanted people, workforce for their industrial revolution. So they designed a system in such a way that people study for the purpose of employment, people study for getting a job, and people study to become a clerk, to become a laborer, or to become a, let's say, some technical person to help some industrial revolution kind of a thing. So the whole system of education was drastically changed during that era. And what we are learning right now, what we are having right now is actually the extension of that system. So Lord Macaulay introduced this English language to the Indian education system. And main aim of modern education system was to spread Christianity during that era. Subjects and syllabus were limited to some extent. And education started to develop and entered into modern era in the 21st century. So whatever we are having right now, school system, college system, is actually started during that era. So aim of that education system was to create equality in the students, secularism, and more concern about environmental things. Must be provided at least minimum level of education so as to understand the culture and people of the country. And also to provide education to all. So some good points were like it is for all, anyone can learn, there was no caste barrier, and teaching was unique or generic for all. It is not religious based teaching, and prepared the students with ever increasing demands of the industrial revolution. So curriculum was divided into 3 segments. One was primary education, which we call 1st to 10th standard, where subjects like history, geography, mathematics, science, Hindi, like different languages were taught. Languages may differ from state to state. Then secondary education was 11th and 12th standard, where science and commerce are bifurcated. And graduation, where students used to go to university and colleges and do some specific sort of graduation. Three types of educational institutes are existing now: schools, colleges, and university. Schools are primary source of education, and after completing schools, people used to go to colleges for education. Now in Gujarat, we have 11th and 12th standard as a school, but many states offer 11th and 12th standard as a college. They call it as a junior college. And then we have a university where you get admission either based on joint entrance examination or some specific kind of entrance test. So either 3 to 4 years of graduation is there, and after that you can also get some post-graduation or doctorate degree if you wish. So advantages of the system which was introduced by Makula was use of technology in learning. Student is free, freelancing in fact, and new technologies are incorporated. Many programs and missions have started, and top colleges, university has come up. So after that, throughout the India, schools, colleges started developed, and now we see that we have many good infrastructure and environment-based colleges. Some disadvantage of modern education systems are some of the segments believe that government interference has increased. A lot of pressure and burden is there on students. There is a lack of practical knowledge. Fees is more. Schools and colleges and private institutions have very high fees. And family below poverty line cannot afford probably all this education system. And lack of connectivity between rural area students and city area students or urban area students. Now let us try to understand, after India got independence, what the government has done in education system and how the education system has been evolved. So after independence, India adopted the constitution in 1950, and education became responsibility of both state and central. Generally, it happens that many portfolios are there which are responsibility of central, like foreign policy or defense. They are all responsibility of central government. And Mehsul, water, they are all responsibility of state government. But education is a field in which state government, central government, and even municipal government, they all try to contribute. So the constitution maker recognized this opportunity, and they decided that if we have a educated electorate, means मतदार अगर हमारा पढ़ा लिखा होगा, तो we will make a better country. So constitution not only emphasizes on the principle of equality in education's opportunity, but also the achievement of social justice through a policy of positive discrimination. So education policies in independent India have been closely influenced by the education commissions that were set up from time to time. So university education system, or we can say University Education Commission, was established in 1948 under the chairmanship of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. This commission was set up to report on status of Indian university and suggest the improvements and extensions desirable to suit the present and future requirements of the country. So in fact, whatever university system we have right now, it is all because of this commission. And this commission made it sure that university system remain independent, remain away from all the political era. And that's why we can see that the vice chancellor of a university is almost is directly reporting to the Rajyapal, and university system is completely autonomous and independent of the government. The whole setup was suggested by this commission. So to create an effective and functional democracy and reduce socio-economic inequalities of the system, and this commission aim actually was to provide knowledge, wisdom for a comprehensive development of the personality. Higher education was to made accessible to all sections of society, irrespective of religion, caste, gender, and region. Then came Secondary Education Commission, It came in 1952 under the chairmanship of Dr. A. Lakshmanaswamy Mudaliar, and it suggested diversification of high school courses and establishment of multi-purpose high schools. So uniform pattern throughout the India was suggested, and it also suggested the setting up of technical schools. So you know that in all across India we have technical schools who offer technical subject after 8th standard. So that was the suggestion made by this commission. It proposed to increase the efficiency of production and broader view about the educational problems of India. A very significant place in the development of secondary education in independent India was suggested by this commission. But again, women's education was not given much importance even in that commission. Later on, during 1964 to 1966, one another commission was established under the chairmanship of D.S. Kothari, which was known as Kothari Commission. So Kothari Commission drafted the first ever policy, that is called the National Education Policy. So India got first education policy in 1968, which was drafted by Kothari Commission. So in the opening paragraph of this commission, it was said that the destiny of India is now being shaped in the classroom. So this specific commission was believed that India has to evolve through classrooms only. So as per the view of Kothari Commission, education had the power to work as a powerful instrument for social, economic and political change. The conclusion that the Indian education needs a drastic reconstruction, almost a revolution to realize the constitutional goals and to meet various problems facing the country, facing by the country in the different sectors. The commission has three main aspects: internal transformation, qualitative improvement and expansion of educational facilities. These are the three main things that they employed. And then the Prime Minister at that time, Indira Gandhi, she recognized this as a radical restructuring. So National Education Policy 1968 was the first education policy formulated by the government of India to promote and regulate the education in the country. The policy covered elementary education to higher education all over the India in both rural and urban areas. It sought total reformation and aimed at extending the prospects of education to all sections of society to accomplish the goal of harmony and integration. Key resolutions were: they suggested 3-language formula, then free and compulsory education for children up to 6 to 14 years of age group. 3-language formula included English, Hindi and Sanskrit. Education opportunities to be provided to all the caste, region, religion, gender, physical and mental disability. Every aspects of students have been covered in that. Talent identification was given importance. Better training and qualification of teachers. So this was the policy in which the first time teachers were thought of. Up till now, people were trying to thought of students only, but in this policy, training and qualification of teachers were also thought of. Part-time courses was also introduced at university level. There was some criticism also on this policy. Few states were not happy with the 3-language formula. But again, there is always some criticism for anything you do. So this policy is still hailed as the first systematic effort to give shape to Indian education system. The second education policy came in 1986, and special emphasis on removal of disparities to equalize educational opportunities was done. So at that time, the Prime Minister was Rajiv Gandhi, and they believe that there should be equal opportunities for all the caste. So specific kind of opportunities were given to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and other backward classes and women also. So in educational platform, they tried to bring all these disparities to be resolved, and specific opportunities were given for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes. Key resolutions were Operation Blackboard. So they wanted primary education to be strong. Scholarships were expanded. Adult education, what we call as the Praud Shiksha Abhiyan. So promote adult education was there. SC/ST categories teachers were recruited. Poor family were given incentives to motivate the students to go to school. So like Madhyan Bhojan Yojana kind of initiatives were started so that poor people can stand their students to the school. New institutes were developed, and during this policy only, it gave more importance to certain bodies like UGC, AICT, like that. And Open University started during that era. So Indira Gandhi National Open University was established because of this policy. It also included the information technology in the education. Rural university model was also introduced based on Gandhian philosophy, and educational structure was made common, like 10 plus 2 plus 3. Nationwide it was applicable. National curriculum framework was also developed, and as I told you, UGC, NCERT, AICT, such national institutes of were got strengthened during this policy. There was some amendment made in this policy in 1992 by a commission under the chairmanship of Acharya Ramamurthy, and the report was tabled by N. Janardhan Reddy, and it was implemented. It was actually put up in 1992, and later on in 2005, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh adopted this policy under the Common Minimum Program of UPA government. So key resolutions or key amendment was there. So one of the suggestion was there should be a common entrance exam throughout the country. So although JEE and AIEEE was taken at that time, and even there should be a common state level admission exam should be there. That was the suggestion made by that commission. Another objectives were to achieve universal access and enrollment, provide better computer literacy, and value education was given more importance. Teacher training programs were emphasized, and higher education and research work should be given more importance, as well as vocational education. So although these policies were talking about all these things, but these things were taking shape throughout the year. So it is not that teacher training just came after the second education policy or vocational education came after that. It was a gradual process, but then explicitly mentioned by these policies. Now, before talking about new education policy, we must understand that at present, what is the difference between Indian education system and foreign education system? So based on various subjects, I'm just trying to compare these two education system. I don't say which one is better, which one is worst. They both have their own advantages, disadvantages. Let us try to compare based on various subjects. The system which is available either US, UK or Germany, and Indian education system. So first one is option to switch. So in Indian education system, switching of major subjects in middle of course is not possible. Let's say someone is doing chemistry major, and if he want to opt for some subjects like economics or something else, it's very difficult or almost impossible in an education system, Indian education system. While in foreign education system, most of the universities in US or Europe allow switching of the subject in middle of any course. So switching is allowed. Second is approach towards education. So in Indian education system, they rely on the research that has been conducted in the past and focus more on theoretical education. But in foreign education system, fresh research other than what is already been discovered is allowed, and a more practical approach in education system is there. If we talk about research initiatives, so research funds are less, so research initiatives are also less. Well, if you see foreign system, big giants like Google, Microsoft, they all try to help universities and they put some projects over there. So better research initiatives are offered in foreign system. Curriculum wise, modification in curriculum is very late in Indian system, while in foreign system, generally curriculum is in line with the existing technology. So curriculum is often revised after a few years. If you see the exposure, so still Indian education system is not that attractive and foreign students are coming less to Indian universities, while foreign universities have a mixed group. They have international students, so they get better exposure. No doubt in India, we have some students from Afghanistan and Gulf countries, but we don't attract European students and American students much. If you talk about course options, so very limited amount of courses are available. In foreign system, multiple courses are available and specialization are provided to the students. If you talk about job opportunities, so job opportunities provided by Indian universities are very limited, and only top education institutes are referred for job opportunities. In foreign education system, they provide excellent job opportunities for students in on-campus as well as later on also they are placed well. If you talk about funds, so higher education in India is little bit more affordable, while in foreign education system, it is very costly because cost of living, food, travel, etc. is getting added for the overall education system, and also fees are very high. So foreign country education is expensive if you are looking it from the Indian perspective or from the mindset of Indian student. Return of investment, if you talk about, then depending on the college you are going to join, return on investment is little conditional. Like if you joined a very big university who has a good name in market, then probably your return on investment is good in India. If you talk about foreign education system, the cost of studying might be expensive, but study abroad gives a good start to one's career and good return on investment for the foreign universities also is very good. Scholarship, as we know, Indian universities are having limited source of scholarships. In foreign universities, numerous scholarships are given, and student can also take part in work-study programs. So work and study go in hand in hand in foreign education system. So again, I want to make a point that every system has a pros and cons. So as a developing nation, Indian education system has very strong theoretical fundamentals and develop on the pillars of support of theoretical knowledge. So in Indian education system, students are getting ready for the toughest competitive exams in the world. You must be knowing that JEE or UPSC exams are one of the toughest exams of the world. So students are getting ready for that exams in Indian education system. So theoretically, Indian students are very strong. Whereas if you see the education systems of developed nations, that is more flexible and allow students to pursue varied career options rather than the mainstream options. So both the systems have its own pros and cons. Now let us talk about new education policy. So this new education policy replaces the previous policy of 1986. And this committee actually, it was constituted in 2015 under the former cabinet secretary TSR Subramaniam, who started doing the work on it. And later on, the report was placed on table in June 2017. And the total draft was submitted in 2019 by a panel led by ISRO chief Krishnamaswamy Kasturirangan. And then this draft was submitted to MHRD, and MHRD put it into public for public consultation. And later on, after the public consultation and all the advices from all the sectors of society, this policy was announced. So this policy aims to encourage cognition and creativity, lead to restructuring of entire system, more learner-centric, and the base of this policy will be access, equality, quality, affordability, and accountability. These are the 5 pillars on which this policy is based. So throughout the world, education keep on changing dynamically, while India has to wait for almost 34 years. So we have to take the leverage of all 34 years in this new policy. So not just the Indian education system, but economic and social progress in future will be affected as an impact of national education policy. So in 2019, MHRD released the policy draft. And as I told you, number of public consultations were also done. So what is the highlight of this policy? So whatever structure of 10 plus 2 is going to be replaced by 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So in new policy, from age of 3 to age of 8 will be a foundational stage. From 8 year to 11 year, it will be preparatory stage. From 11 to 14, it will be middle stage. And from 14 to 18, it will be secondary stage. So I repeat, 10 plus 2 is going to replace by 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. From 3 to 8 years, that 5 years will be foundational stage. 8 to 11, 3 years will be of preparatory stage. 11 to 14 will be a middle stage, and 14 to 18 will be secondary stage. Promotion of multilinguistic and national and native languages will be there. So as Principal Sir said, that multilingual and native language, so home language or mother tongue will be given more weightage. Medium of instruction would be home language until class 5, and if possible up to class 8 also it can be extended. Indian arts of all kinds will be offered at all the levels of the schools. School will take exams only in 3rd standard, 5th standard and 8th standard to track the progress of education, and it will be overseen by the appropriate authority. Board exams in class 10th and 12th will be redesigned. They will be made easier, testing primary competencies, and even if you get lesser grades, there will be chance of improvement of board exams. अभी क्या system है कि if you get 50%, then there is no way that you can improvise the grade. But this policy says that if some student feels that he has got less grade, then he will be given opportunity to improvise the grades. Now, if you see the early child education, when the child is small, let's say 3 to 10 years, what exact education he should get? So early childhood learning focuses mainly on identification of colors, shapes, alphabets, then relationship with the nature, how human is related with the nature. He should be able to self-identify himself or herself. Etiquettes, behavior, emotional development, arts, crafts, music, ethics, logical thinking, problem solving, discovery-based learning, teamwork, collaboration, developing curiosity. All these things should be inculcated in a child during or through new education policy. So new education policy tries to address all these areas during the formative years of a child education. Similar way, if you see the graduation degrees like undergraduate education from 3 to 4 years. So here they are trying to allow you multiple exit options. So there will be no hard boundary like science and commerce. This boundary will get diluted, and arts, humanities, sciences, all these boundaries are going to be diluted. And as depicted in the picture, they will allow you for multiple pathways. Dropout should be bring back. Alternative centers will be established. Tutoring will be done, peer tutoring. Learning outcomes will be broadened, and various thoughts of school will be created. So this is something which they are promising in new education policy. Some specific decisions are like B.Ed program, Bachelor of Education program, that will be made 4 year. Flexibility to students will be given for the choice of subjects, whatever they wish to study, they will be allowed. Teacher eligibility test, which we call as a TET test, will be strengthened. Better test material will be given, and score that will be taken into consideration during the recruitment, that all will be strengthened. Then teacher has to go minimum 50 hours of participation in contributory personal development courses. So teachers will be allowed for local, regional, state, national and international workshops. So teachers will be improvised in that sense. And by 2030, teacher education will move to multidisciplinary university. So there won't be a specific teacher in education, but then teacher education will be part of multidisciplinary university. The government want to reduce the curriculum. So in a sense that core subjects will be less, critical thinking will be improvised, interactive classrooms will be established, and experiential learning by experience will be motivated. So you all must have noticed that in a new syllabus which is introduced by GTU and AICTE, they are having less of core subjects and more of humanities subjects or design subjects. So this is on line of this policy only. Now, what about the bodies which will control the education scenario and who will take place in place of UGC and AICTE? So here there is some recommendation based on new education policy. So it says that there will be regulatory council, which we know as National Higher Education Regulatory Council. This council will come again under the Education Commission of India. So single regulator will be there for higher education sector, excluding the medical and legal education system. Higher performing Indian universities will be allowed to set up campuses out of India, and world's 100 topmost universities will be allowed to operate from India also. So now we can expect bigger universities coming to India, because you know that bigger universities or top 100 universities will always aim to expand their base, and there is no better market than India. So now we expect that out of top 100 world's university may open their campuses in India, and there will be one single regulator. The regulator will be known as Higher Education Commission of India. So in next slide, I will show you how these commissions are there and who is there in hierarchy, who is in top, and who will be nodes of that. So before that, let us try to understand impact of NPE on technical education. So it proposes 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor degree, and if you are taking non-technical courses, it will be 3-year program, and if you are taking 4 technical programs, then it will be 4-year program. So if you are taking non-technical degree, then let's say BCom, BSc. So in that, after 1 year you will have certificate, after 2 years you will have diploma, and after 3 years you will have bachelor's degree. And if you take a 4-year degree, then you will have some kind of honors. MPhil degree, Master of Philosophy, is discontinued, just like on the terms of Western models. सिर्फ भारत में ही एक MPhil का डिग्री अवार्ड होता था, वो अब बंद हो जाएगा. और if someone is doing technical course, So in technical course, after 2 years, there will be certificate. After 3 years, there will be diploma. After 4 years, there will be bachelor degree. After 5 years, there will be honors. And after 6 years, there will be MTech degree or master's degree. Now let us try to understand how the whole system will be established. So the topmost authority will be Higher Education Council of India, which we'll call as a HECI. Under Higher Education Council of India, there will be 4 verticals. HECI के अंडर में there will be 4 verticals. The first vertical will be National Higher Education Regulatory Council. The function of this council is to regulate higher education, including teachers' education and excluding medical and legal education. Then there will be a single entity for accreditation. So that authority is National Accreditation Council, that is NAC. It is a meta accrediting body. So NAC and NBA, they both will go into National Accreditation Council. The third will be Higher Education Grants Council, HEGC. This council will be funding and financing authority for universities and colleges. So this will replace National Council of Teacher Education, All India Council of Technical Education, and University Grant Commission. So AICTE, UGC, NCTE, all will be merged and they will directly go to Higher Education Grants Council, that is HEGC. So once again, I repeat, there will be 4 verticals under Higher Education Commission of India. First vertical is for regulation. Second vertical is for accreditation. Third is for funding and financing. And 4 is for framing the graduate attributes, or let's say General Education Council. In General Education Council, they will frame the graduate attributes, learning outcomes, and it will have all the varied educations in one specific council. So it will be responsible for framing National Higher Education Educational Qualification Framework, that is NHEQF, and it will have all the bodies such as National Council of Teacher Education, then professional standards such as National Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Council of Architecture, Veterinary Council of India, National Council for Vocational Education and Training. So all professional bodies will come under this General Education Council, GECs. So once again, I repeat, there are 4 verticals. One is General Education Council, another is Grants Council, third one is Accreditation Council, and fourth one is Regulatory Council. They all come under Higher Education Council of India Limited. Once again, this policy says that you will have a single entity for taking exams. So we already know that there is a national testing agency. So slowly and gradually, all the examination will be diverted to National Testing Agency. Right now, National Testing Agency takes JEE and NEET, but slowly and gradually, all exams will go to this agency. Policy proposes higher education institutes like IITs make changes with regard to diversity of the learning. Internationalization of education will be done, and foreign universities will be allowed to set up campuses, and fees will be fixed for private and public. What major changes we are expecting? First is freedom of choice. What freedom of choice? So rigid system of art, commerce and science will be flexible. It will be diluted and people will take courses as per their choice. Vocational education and practical education will be given more importance. And just for example, like coding will start from standard 6. 6 standard से आपका coding शुरू कर सकते हैं आप. 6th standard के बाद ही आप internships ले सकते हैं. So internships in local trades, crafts can be done. Importance will be given to skill development, practical assignment. So more skills, more practical assignments will be given. One unique thing will be started, and that unique thing is based on assessment. Right now what happens, any student will be graded based on a single teacher point of view, and report card only mentions the opinion of that single teacher. But in new system, which is known as PAROK, that is Performance Assessment Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development. So this new assessment system will come into existence, in which the student's assessment will be done by not only teacher, but by student himself, and the other students of the class also will try to evaluate the student's performance. So it will be a review and assessment by holistic approach. So this is a very unique concept of assessment, and students reports card will try to reflect self-assessment also by the student himself. Then a new kind of banking system will come, and this banking system will be banking of credits. Right now, as you deposit money in a bank, similar way new banks will be established where you are going to deposit your credits. So which will be known as academic bank of credit will be established, where any student can deposit their credits, and based on credits earned from various institutes, he will be able to get a final degree. So let's say you have done 3 courses from one university, 5 courses from second university, and 3 courses from third university. So they all will be credited to a single banking system. And if a university finds that whatever credits you have earned from various universities or various institutions, if they are good enough for earning a degree, you will get a final degree. So bank of credit is going to be established. Mother tongue will be given more preference, and single entrance exam will be established for most of the colleges. National Education Technology Forum will be created, and digital learning will be motivated. Multidisciplinary college will be set up in every district. So whatever existing colleges are there, they will be converted to multidisciplinary colleges. Music, art, literature will be taught across all the colleges. MPhil will be discontinued and Sanskrit will be mainstreamed. Multiple entry and exit system will be incorporated. So anytime you can enter through any mechanism, and exit is also allowed that way. Foreign colleges, as I told, they will be set up. And the major emphasis, the major point of this policy is that the expenditure behind the education will be increased to 6% of GDP, which is previously only 4%. So this is a major point. 6%, 4% to 6% is a major investment in the education sector. So again, let us try to see what is there new in this new policy compared to the previous policies. So as I told you, the cost of education, the investment in education by government will increase from 3.84% to 6% in new policy. GER, we all know what is GER, gross enrollment ratio. So it is 26.3% in 2018-19, and we're expecting that through this policy by 2035, we are trying to increase it up to 50%. Schooling structure will be revised to 5+3+3+4. Then bachelor's program, which is 3 years, and masters of 2 years for commerce and science. So here it will be integrated program from bachelor to master of 5 years. In every section you can get a degree, and MPhil will be discontinued. Entrance examination for higher education. So as I told you, NTA will be there. It is already there. NTA is there. So it is going to conduct all the exams. Medium of instructions are different from different schools and different states. But in new education policy, till class 5, mother tongue is there. It can go up to class 8. And then home language, mother language will be given more importance. Vocational courses, till now vocational courses are there at college level, but here in new policy at least 50% learners should have exposure to vocational education system, and class 6 onwards internships and vocational education can be taken. Higher education subjects like arts and humanities were not that important. In new system, holistic development, multidisciplinary education will be given more emphasis. Arts and humanities will be there across all the disciplines. coding. So in olden system, after class 10, coding was there. In new system, after class 6, coding will be introduced. Board exams, they are fixed and student can opt for board exams depending on the educational board. In new policy, student will be able to choose any subjects in the board, and board exams frequency will be more, and student can take better grade exams for better grade also. In fact, this year only Central Board of Education has introduced that any one subject student can choose for improvisation of the grade. So slowly and gradually these policies are getting implemented. Educational approach in new policies, till now it was theoretical education, but in new policy, foundation towards more practical education and overall mental development is proposed. So I have referred all this literature available either on net or on other places to formulate this lecture. So that is what I wanted to share with all of you.
Hello.
So we can open the session for discussion. So my point over here was to previously the education was taken to build character, to build overall performance, and nowadays the education is taken for employment. But anyway, that is a demand of time, so we have to stay with the time. So now we can open for discussion. Jani sir, over to you.
Yeah. If anyone is having questions, they can ask.
Sir, you conducted, very good session and given overview of education policy. I think I'm getting echo, so somewhere mic and speaker both are on. Jani sir. Okay, all right. Now it is clear. So ultimately, the question is that suppose in a engineering courses, we are offering, let's say, 4-year engineering courses. And suppose some students are, studying only for 3 years. Then, I mean, should we give the diploma? Because, that was actually we were thinking during the meeting at GTU also. So I said, yes, we should give it, because if some students can complete 3 years, a few courses, a few number of credits, then certainly we should offer the diploma courses to him, so that if he want to exit in between, he can exit, and we offer the diploma course for him.
Yes, sir.
So I think this new education policy, as per your discussion, I think it has already given that opportunity, right? As per
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And secondly, if I talk about Gujarat scenario, so in Gujarat, our education minister has constituted a committee of 4 vice chancellors, and these 4 vice chancellors is going to draft how Gujarat is going to implement. So 4 big university vice chancellors have already given their suggestions and submitted to the report to the education minister. So we are expecting that based on the report gathered through this committee, Gujarat is almost ready to implement this policy. So let us see what that report says. We are just eagerly waiting for that report.
And mostly these private colleges are converted into universities, like recently Atmiya, Marwadi, and day by day, all these private colleges are becoming university.
Yes, sir.
So it will be easy for them to offer the multiple courses. But for engineering colleges like us, it will be very difficult, because if few students want to study, let's say, Sanskrit, then it will be difficult for us, from where we will get the faculties. So in that case, I think we have to suggest that, okay, you attend some open online course, and then you present the certificate, that kind of way.
That probably GTU and we all have to allow them.
I think Chirag sir is raising hands.
Yes.
Chirag sir,
yes,
please.
Sir. Chirag sir, please continue.
Sir, very informative session and very lucid presentation First of
Thank
all,
you, sir.
congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Sir, you have been part of state education system as a student and state engineering college as a faculty. And you also had the fortunate to work with IISc as a student and then IIT Mumbai as a student. So do you foresee any uh, bridging the gap kind of scenario for state engineering colleges and so-called national institutes of importance? We always say IITs and NITs are national institutes of importance. And we always see that research fund, research grant, development funds are very much there with the IIT and NIT professors. There are good AICT schemes for engineering college professors also. But my query to you is, do you personally feel that this education policy will definitely help us bridging that gap in terms of academic content and in terms of research and development funds?
Yes, sir, because what is promised to us is it is going to invest heavily in education. So if 6% of GDP is to come to education, it means that the budget for education will almost increase by 150%. Like before 100 rupees, now it is going to 150 rupees. So that way, if more fund is coming, then we will have more opportunity to do research. In fact, last year only Gujarat government is allocating 2 crore rupees per year for specifically to technical education for doing research. And as a commissioner level, we are already started inviting proposals for doing research. So I know that these rupees are very small, but there is some initiatives there. And if more funds are coming, government will pour more money to the educational institutes, and that will help us to do research and all. In fact, from last 20 years of experience, and I'm lucky enough to stay at IIT, IISc, and IIT Ram. So I found that in last one decade, if you see the faculties of government colleges have become more vibrant. Before, if you see the scenario before 20 years, the government engineering colleges faculties were only confined to their colleges, and they were not well traveled or well informed, probably to the whole education scenario. But now, if you see, the best professors of Gujarat are there with government colleges. And why? Because the government college professors are well traveled, well informed. So I'm seeing a very positive change in government colleges, and faculty themselves have tried to get degrees, and now you see that there are more than probably 200, 300 doctorate faculties with government colleges. So I really feel very positive for the system, and I'm expecting that research environment will definitely more there in government institutions in time to come.
Yes, sir. In line with you, yes, the valid funding appetite amongst the state engineering colleges faculties have risen multifold. So I hope that this NEP 2020 actually solves that purpose.
Yes.
Otherwise, again, if the funnel doesn't work in proper direction, then again we would be at the receiving end, because there are many aspiring students and there are many innovative teams we have every year, and we would like to have more funds from state governments also. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Anybody is having any question? Hello, sir. I think
Yes,
nobody is having any question. So, on behalf of Government Engineering College, Rajkot, I am very much thankful to you for delivering such a nice session on national education policy. There were so many things that we were not knowing, and you have made aware of this, all these new things. So we are very much thankful, sir. for delivering such a nice session. Principal sir, please, if you want to talk anything, please.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Badgujar Sahib, for sharing your valuable knowledge with all of us regarding national education policy. Thank you. Thank you all the faculties and head of the departments for attending the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir. Thank you, sir.